If you're like me, and I know I am, you're cheap. You want the benefits of custom board game accessories, but the tiny niche nature of the hobby has those prices sky high. So let's take some trash, or items for endeavors with better economies of scale, and let's repurpose them. Welcome to Top 5 Solo Games. I'm J. Allen Riker, horror author and solo board game fanatic. And today, we're looking at my top 5 improvised board game supplies and accessories. Wow, we're getting nicher than niche. For my provocative, honorable mention, I'm choosing nail clippers. That's right. These aren't accidentally left out because I was just trimming my nails. Well, they are very nicely trimmed. These are out because I use them for board game purposes. It's an honorable mention because it's not going to apply to most of you, but war gamers know what I'm getting at, and half of you are getting excited and half of you are getting mad, which is why I call this the provocative pick. Now, if you don't own any war games, what you might not know is that while normal tokens are punched out like this, the ones that you've seen, nice rounded corners, pressed, very compressed on the edges nicely, most wargame tokens are printed like this. It saves on space. It makes for a cheaper die because you don't have 4 individual sides on every one of them. You know, you're just cutting these longer blades. But the problem is these corners are left sharp and they will snag. And that drives me absolutely insane. I hate squared corners. I play on neoprene, and so these things snag really easy. And my first war game that I bought, what is that called? The space fighting one. I know that doesn't narrow it down. Anyway, I have some where the stickers have peeled up because of the paper snagging just on themselves, not even necessarily on the neoprene mats. So I call this provocative because there's a big rift amongst wargamers. Okay? There's one group that owns $50 purpose-built corner rounders, or several. One that's 1 millimeter for small tokens, one that's 2 millimeters for big tokens. And the other half use fingernail clippers. And there is a third group that we don't discuss, and they don't clip corners at all, but they are shunned. And we shall not speak of them henceforth. So the way that you clip a war game token, and I'm going to do this live and on camera, avert your eyes if the possibility of blood or token destruction upsets you. You just take the tiniest little bit, and, well, that's what I do. You nip it off. Okay? Now, this is not perfect, but I'll tell you what. When I've got some practice, when I've done a couple warm-ups on some blanks, I'm getting pretty close to perfect. The good thing about using nail clippers is it's basically free. Because you want to use your dullest nail clippers. You don't want to buy some nice new sharp nail clippers. You want your dullest pair so that when it presses down, it really squeezes it before it cuts through. The kind you would never want to use on your nails because it compresses them into like razor blades. You know what I'm saying? And the other reason that I decided to go with clippers is that after watching a demo of purpose-built corner rounders, somebody kind of struggling to align it in there and then clipping it blind, this just looks much faster. Maybe one day I will get a pair if I've got an extra $50 to toss away. But for now, I'm happy with my little improvised board game accessory. Nail clippers. So at one point, my next improvised accessory would probably have fallen into a niche category. But with the cost of shipping games out of China, and with the rise of verb and write games, meaning roll and write or flip and write, this is no longer really a niche. It is very tempting when you see, a $3 to $5 game that you can print out yourself and not pay any freight on, to go for it. And I have a couple of them that are among my top games. Fliptown is one of them. Now, you either are going to print a bunch of those, or you are going to buy a laminator. I think laminating can be a good option when you know you're going to keep playing a game. If you feel the need to laminate everything that you play, you're going to end up tossing some out. So, my number 5 improvised board game accessory is a report sleeve. You've just got you've got a handful of them. You take your print and play, you slip it in there. This works with dry erase marker. This works with wet erase marker. This one does, at least. I think maybe some of them get foggy if you put the alcohol on them. And even if you have a laminator, this is a good way to test out a game, see if it's something that you really want to permanently encase in plastic. Just carbon lock that paper in there. And it's a cheap way to check that out. Okay, we're going to stay in the exciting world of sleeves. Now, this accessory comes from a more popular hobby, which does not narrow it down. And that accessory is the coin sleeve. So this coin sleeve is built for about 25 millimeter coins. It fits really well your standard sized board game standees, dungeon crawler standees. So these are some generic ones that I have that are not made for any specific game. These are skinny minis. You can see I cut out a little piece of cardstock and put it there to make it, because otherwise you can see from the front all the way to the back through their transparent stuff. You can keep them organized. You can keep them from scratching each other. When you need a dwarf, you turn to your dwarf page. When you need a goblin, you turn to your goblin page. Holds everything very nice, neat, in order. Makes it very easy to flip through and grab the faction that you need. Skeletons, orcs. But let me show you what happens when you team it up with Dungeon Universalis. So, Dungeon Universalis is one of these games that is this mega sprawling, infinite dungeon crawling game that wants to take over your life. There are a few like this, but let me tell you one thing that amazing quality of life improvement the Dungeon Universalis brings. And that is numbered standees. See, 1, 2, 3. Now, dungeon crawlers can be very painfully slow. That's one thing I like about 4 Against Darkness, is because you're just drawing it. You're not searching for your tile. You're not searching for your standees. League of Dungeoneers, I would have these baggies of the factions, and I would roll something, and I would pull the faction out, and I would dig through the baggie and try to find the appropriate standee, and it would just slow everything down that much more. With Dungeon Universalis, they tell you what faction you're encountering in the mission. It gives you the numbers of them. You go through and you pull them all. You also can pull all of your dungeon tiles at that time, and it makes the game so much snappier. And some people will put them in order in little boxes, but by far the easiest way to see them is one of these giant binders with a bunch of coin collector pages. This is one reason why I just think that I've found my mega dungeon crawler. Someday I'm going to do a review on Dungeon Universalis, because it just does it. The creator did a lot of very smart things like this that make it so much smoother than any of its contemporaries that are of a comparable heaviness, a comparable crunchiness. I'm going to buy, obviously, purpose-built crawlers still, but for my big, standard, endless crawler, it's Shoji Universalis, and one reason is the easy organization and the use of coin sleeves. All right, well, let's go to just straight up garbage. There are some games that you play where you're rolling dice over and over, and they're the exact same dice. For me, the game is Conflict of Heroes that finally pushed me to find a better solution. There has to be a better way. It drove me nuts because you have dozens of troops out on the board and you're rolling for you and the enemy, one after the other, just constant rolling. And it's slow to stop, roll, pick it up. I mean, when you're rolling hundreds of times in a game, it makes a difference. And when it's the same dice every time, it doesn't make sense to have to constantly wrangle the dice. So I use a bully cube container. Now, you shake it, perfect roll every time. Set it and forget it. Just like Ron Popeil said. But you'll notice that that's a really obnoxious noise. It almost got me killed. Luckily, I saw my wife's glare before she did murder, and I made this adjustment. With a couple of rounds of EVA foam, you can make it whisper quiet. Well, there you go. I have a couple games where I don't know if I would play it if I had to roll the dice that many hundreds of times. Another thing this is really good for is, well, we'll come back to that. Wow, what a hook. The use of EVA foam doesn't end there. That's just a craft good. I don't consider that to be repurposed. But this is repurposed. Once again, going back to the somehow more popular hobby of coin collecting, we get coin capsules. So a 25 millimeter coin capsule makes a really nice token that you can use to, say, make a portable version of Marvel United. I put some EVA foam on the back to show if it's a hero or villain, and also to secure the piece of paper in it. And you're good to go. Now you can take all of your heroes with you and just transport the cards. They also come in a larger size. These are 38. This is a 38 millimeter coin capsule. Very nice. But that's pretty niche. One thing that's not as niche are for bag builders. You know how torn up your tokens can get when you're playing a bag builder and you're constantly shuffling those tokens around in the bag. So I'm talking about Arkham Horror living card game. I'm talking about Bullet. So now I don't worry about my tokens getting messed up because I've carbon locked them into plastic, which is good for the environment too. None of this carbon is getting out and adding to global warming. And they make a very nice, satisfying sound for half the price of the wooden tokens. It cost me $10 to get enough of these coin capsules to encase all of my Bullet tokens, and it would have cost me $20 to buy the wooden tokens. I don't know about during the campaign, but that's the price that I remember finding them on Game Nerds. All right. Now for my next accessory, my number one improvised accessory. Sometimes you want to play a board game, but sitting upright is just too exhausting. At a certain point in the evening, my bones dissolve, and I actually lose the ability to fight against gravity. But there is a way to enjoy a board game even after your bones have dissolved. and that is a board game lap tray. Now this is a cheap coffee table tray, and I wouldn't call that necessarily improvised, except for this brilliant surface that I added to it. It is a section of a yoga mat. And let me tell you what, these cards don't slide. If they're in a sleeve, forget about it. This is perfect for playing small footprint card games like For Northwood or Regicide or any number of button shy games. You remember I told you this guy was going to make a comeback? Paired with this, it's perfect for playing a lot of your adventure book type games, like Sword of the Bastard Elf, that always has you rolling the same dice. You know, in general, the ability to play a board game away from your table is an advantage that the solo gamer has that doesn't normally get brought up in my list of benefits of solo gaming. I didn't mention that, but typically you need to be sitting at the same table so that you can share components. But this lets you lounge on your couch and enjoy some of your smaller games in a more horizontal fashion. So that's it from me. Let me know in the comments if you have any particularly brilliant or unusual improvised board game accessories. I know that board gamers tend to be an innovative lot, so I'm really hoping to see some or hear about some good ones. Also, I will put in the description of this links to anything that isn't just like straight up trash. Like the bullion cube dice. I'll tell you that these are from Aldi. You can get glass ones, but I like these plastic ones. So with that, have a great rest of your day and keep playing solo.